So let's get started. And, Libby had such a great idea for us to come with insights, any insights you've had, but also with a passage, something you've read or something that you've listened to of Sid's. And sometimes it could be something else too. You could be reading a newspaper article and something about that paragraph in the newspaper triggers an insight for you. It could be anywhere, doesn't it? But that insight happens because of something that you saw through the three principles, or you saw within yourself as an insight, if that makes sense. So what do you got? Who wants to go first?
Well, Libby suggested, why not Libby?
I guess I'll go first. If you suggest something, you have to do it, I guess, right? So after that last meeting we had, I ordered the Enlightened Gardener on audio, and I've been listening to it as I take walks and stuff. And so that's been really great because I'm still like at the beginning compared to some other people. So I'm really enjoying that book. But one thing at the beginning of that book that resonated with me was, hold on. And I talked to Lori about this another time, so I'd be curious to hear what everybody else thinks about how to accomplish this. But at one point, the gardener had said to the psychologists who were there, this is the quote: "There is no sense in being unhappy when you can be happy." And he got that, or Sid got that from their mother, who originally said to them, just as well to be happy than to be sad. So I was talking to Lori about this last week, and it was like, how do you just switch? How do you just, like, if you're in a bad mood and you know you need to be happy, or you should be happy, or you want to be happy, how do you do that? So because it's all in your thought, like why be miserable when you can be happy, like, and just turn that around. But does anyone have any insight into how do you do that?
Ellen.
Thanks, Libby. This Eckhart Tolle said this, and it sticks in my mind forever. He says, somebody asked him that, and he said, well, or something like that. And he said, well, how do you drop a hot coal?
Quickly.
Yeah, and I thought anyway, I thought that was a great answer, and I won't say anything more about it. But so how do you go from unhappy to happy? How do you drop a hot coal?
For me, Libby, what helps me when I'm not seeing straight is simply just acknowledging that I'm just not seeing straight, and just simply saying that, even here, is a way of acknowledging that you're off the mark, and just let it be. And so at times, just simply having that statement in your mind is enough.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an immediate, not always, but it can be immediate. So you're simply just stepping back from your thought that is causing that.
Yeah, maybe just the awareness that you're upset about something, or, based on your mood or whatever. And then having that awareness that you want to change it, like, why would you want to be unhappy when you couldn't be happy, right? Just knowing that. So I thought that's helpful to me, just to, like you said, have that acknowledgement, or have that awareness, or recognize it when it's occurring.
That brings it into a level of consciousness, because if you're talking about awareness and then understanding, so first awareness, then understanding, that puts it in perspective for you.
Alan, before I want to hear from you. I just want to catch Karen up for a bit. Hi, Karen. Great to see you. So Libby brought a couple of lines from The Enlightened Gardener by Sid. I think you've been, or some of you on this call have been interested or reading that book. But anyway, so the lines were, why be sad when you could be happy? Something like that.
Mhm.
And so we're talking about how we view that. And Alan, you go next. You had your hand up. What were you going to say about that?
Yeah, I'd like your opinions on this too, because one of the things that I've seen in the years gone by is that when I'm unhappy, not if I'm unhappy, when I'm unhappy, there's it's very humbling to acknowledge that there's a part of me that wants to be unhappy. There's a part of my ego that would rather be unhappy than happy. And that's been humbling for me. And that just being aware of that, or being bored by that, or being irritated by that, a lot of times that will enable me to step back from that part of myself that is comfortable being uncomfortable. Just, a few thoughts.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah. I get that you get so used to being unhappy that you get like okay with it. But I had an interesting experience this past Thanksgiving. I may have brought it up before. It was really gloomy here in Connecticut and rainy, and I woke up miserable. I have not felt that kind of miserable literally in years. And I was intrigued by it. Like, I haven't had that low feeling. It was all a bunch of thoughts like, oh, I'm all alone, Thanksgiving. So I go out for a walk and I go to my local park, and it is like ghost town. It is bizarre. First of all, everybody is having Thanksgiving with their family. Second of all, it was just raining. And all of a sudden, it became the coolest movie. Like, I'm in the middle of this unbelievable movie of Ghost Town going through this park, which is usually teeming with activity. I come out to empty tennis courts and paddleball courts with water on the ground. And over here is the basketball court. There's usually, on my walks, I would stop and watch these young athletes playing basketball. They're so much fun to watch. They're so athletic. And I keep walking, and the place is ghost town, and I'm getting off on it. I even did a movie. It was way too long on my phone because I was so intrigued by it. And my low mood turned into how cool. It's hard to put into words. It just like dissolved. And I think it dissolved because I didn't get freaked out by the low mood. You know what I mean? So I didn't get stuck there. It's like, oh, this is interesting that you can still feel this low. It had been so long, and boom. And then it just dissolved. I got, I think, intrigued by the feeling of low and alone and desolate. And it's hard to explain. But that was kind of my odd experience. I don't know. What do the rest of you feel, think about this? I don't know that that's like a goal. I think Sid was referring to the fact that, well, that you could be in a bad mood or a good mood, and it's going to switch anyway. It doesn't matter if you don't feed the mood you'd rather not be in. Most people would rather not be in a low mood. And it's not going to last forever if you don't feed it, if you're not freaked out by it, if you're not depressed about being depressed. Julia.
Hi. So I watched the recording of the one that you had with Shanann, and he was explaining how he doesn't try to like describe his emotions. And I found that interesting because that's all I do. And it almost kind of it gives the emotion that you're having power over like your day and your mood and everything, because that's you're so focused on it, and it kind of just takes away the fact of like actually feeling it, experiencing it, and then moving on. And I've tried using that like in my day-to-day routine like the past week, and it's done like a lot actually for me, because my moods can shift like crazy, but I'll notice that it'll just like, I'm not spending as much time thinking about being uncomfortable or being sad or, you know, mad or whatever. I'm kind of just like going through the motions now. And I found that to be like really helpful. And I don't know if that relates, but yeah. I think that was
Yeah.
nice.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so cool. You know, and it reminds me of Sid, a quote of Sid's, that if we don't get afraid of our feelings, I don't, Richard, you may know the exact quote, but you know, you're muted.
Everybody's
If
on.
anybody knows the exact quote, I'm not good at remembering the exact quote, but it's something about not being afraid of your feelings. And then they come and they go.
Feels
Like
to
that.
me true that to me that if I allow myself to like sorry, I can't see your name. Julia was saying what Shanann had said about not naming a feeling. I find that I used to name all my feelings and then resist the ones I didn't like. And this happened for many years for me. And it was only really when I began to get familiar with the principles and really feel my way into it that experience over time has changed for me. And I think one of the biggest things sort of growing up, it always felt like I was always suppressed in terms of feeling my feelings. You must be a good little girl and all those kind of things. And one of the biggest things with the 3 Ps was actually learning to feel my feelings. And at first I did name them just so I could feel them. But I found that, over time, that I'm much easier just feeling them without trying to work out why they're there or, put anything into them. And by feeling them, of course, if you don't resist them, then it just passes through so quickly, like everyone else is saying. But it's been a real journey for me, because I used to suppress my feelings or not even being able to identify what they were, so it's like I always remember, Sid saying, we're having a human experience, and I really welcome my human experience now, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I love that. Just having a human experience and not making a big deal over it as far as it's bad or labeling it good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. Yeah, when I would try to suppress it or try to change it or any of those doing things we're told out in society to do to take care of your moods just makes it a thing. It makes it more like a physical thing to change or be afraid of or do something with. Yeah, it's interesting that we've all been really saying something so similar when you just are okay with it. It's just a human experience and you're not labeling it. Not even labeling the feeling as happy, sad, you know, blah, blah, but also labeling it as good or bad. It's just a human experience that's always flowing and changing.
I know from shamanistic understanding, they always have that be a hollow bone and let things just flow through you. And I think there's a lot of truth in that, isn't there? I mean, it doesn't mean you have to make other people, blame other people or think you're a victim of circumstances or whatever. So you don't have to be a hollow bone in terms of not being authentic or true, or using it wisely. But I think there's some quality in that, isn't there, in being a hollow bone. And that's something speaks a little bit to what Sid was maybe saying.
So anybody, oh, Greg.
There's one thing this actually happened about 2 days ago, I think. It happened over the weekend. Because I had ordered the missing link for the ebook of it, and there was this one quote I saw, and I forgot what the wording was exactly, but it was something along the lines of like the past, like that's not real, like the only kind of reality is like the present, kind of what's happening now. And I noticed that like I'm very like affected, or I dwell a lot on things that happened in the past. So that kind of like hit me hard. It's like when he said something along the lines of like the past isn't reality, like that's not, like the only reality is like the present, like what's happening right now.
Yeah, that's great. Right. And the present, lasts for a second and then you're in a new present. Moment by moment by moment. Alan.
I have a question. I really want to know if this is other people's experience too. Like I'm looking outside right now. There's a little snow on the ground. It's sunny. It's beautiful. And when I am in nature, looking at nature, however, there's a really strong sense in me that I am part of something extremely wonderful and extremely powerful. And sometimes that's a glimpse. Sometimes it's a feeling that lasts for a while. But I'm wondering if other people have the same connection to nature. It almost feels like it draws me out of myself into something else. And I'd really like to know what other people's experience is. Whoop. That phone is not nature.
Well, I have a very personal experience with that because my dad, I think the word Lori told me for it is agoraphobic, where you can't go into public, like you have terrible anxiety. And he is like, he can't go into stores, public places. He barely works, barely leaves the house. And the one thing that he does all day long is he goes in the woods. He goes in the woods, he makes trails, he walks around, he cuts down trees, hangs out we have like a pond at my family's house. And it's almost like he gets recharged again and like comes back into the house. He's mellowed out, he's relaxed, and he's calm. And I think I read something before explaining how people that, not anxiety, but people that are like more reserved and like, what is it called when you like stay inside all day? Not like an extrovert, but an introvert. I heard that a lot of like introverts connect with nature in a different way because they feel like they're almost like at peace when they're outside. So it's really strange when you said that. That's automatically where my brain went, is like my dad, he's so strange about being outside all day long, but that's what he loves and enjoys. So yeah, I believe that, definitely.
Julia, just building on that, there's the distinction between extrovert and introvert. It's got really nothing to do with physical. It's you're either outside or inside. And if you use it in the spiritual sense, because Sid talks about um, the cause, the nature of duality, that what we think, and again it's coming back to what this illusory gift that we have of thought. So you were talking before about kind of the story, and even Becky yourself, was just that narrative that we have about life and what we think is going on, when in reality there's no real separation between what we think is going on and what is really going on, because we tend to have a narrative or a story going on in our mind that may or may not be real, but it's perceived to be very real because of.
Is that when people use the word separate realities? Is that what that is? Okay.
Well, we no separate realities would be you and I, even though we're wired exactly the same, we live in different realities, and
Mhm.
it's thought created in terms of what the reality is. So you might think we're having a bad day or having a great day. Well, often is we're having a great day. We're not thinking about it. We're just being. It's only when we sort of um, drop in levels of consciousness that we tend to focus on the narrative as opposed to just the essence of being.
Hmm.
That state Sid talked about thoughtlessness, where you're in that state of no thought, where you're basically kind of you're on automatic pilot, like the spirit within you is guiding you without thought.
Mhm.
You're just being. So, which is very cool because you
I
know
like that. I like the word autopilot.
yeah.
It, yeah.
And if you
Yep.
do tap into the inside energy of all things, you tend to live in an autopilot a lot more often. That just becomes the state of norm. So
Mhm.
as people are contributing, I'm flipping, Lori, I'm flipping through Missing Link going, oh, okay, this is like Libby, for example. You talked about you're almost apologetic for the time that you haven't spent yet. But if you if you look at the Missing Link opening chapter, is one of the greatest misconceptions ever, is the belief that it takes years to find wisdom. So there's really no need to apologize for the time that you have or haven't spent. It's just, what state of mind are you in now? That's all that matters.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. But I'm just trying to, I'm just really intrigued by what everyone's saying and what I'm reading. So that's why I'm trying to like catch up, I'm trying to understand some more. But no, I appreciate that. That's on
Well,
my list.
Libby,
That's on my
Libby,
list, the missing link.
I got to tell you, Libby, you'll
Mhm.
never catch up. I won't either.
Mm,
Nobody will catch up ever because it's never ending.
right,
That's
right.
what's so cool, is
Mhm,
that you just keep seeing more. I think everybody on the call would say that.
mhm,
That's what's so cool. So
mm.
there's no beginning and no end, really. It's yeah. And all of us have probably had insights even before we were exposed to Sid and the three principles, but we didn't realize what it was or what we were getting. That's what's so cool. So your paragraph that you brought got a lot of mileage. Look at how far we can go with just a couple of lines. So who else brought something that you'd like the rest of us to talk about and consider? Becky.
I was looking at just something actually it's interesting from what Greg said about the past. I just opened it as a page, and it said if you live in the past, you can never find happiness. You're trying to live in a reality that no longer exists. And it's another thing that I've become aware of personally over time is, you know, how much meaning I gave the past and how much I brought it into my future or into my present as well. And, you know, for the principles for me, you know, it's really helped me to it's all just gone away so easily. I mean, it comes back when my mood is low or my level of consciousness drops, but for a lot of the time, just living in that knowledge of what Sid says there, you know, it takes a weight of the whole past away, because, you know, it's always felt something that personally I've always carried. I felt that you know, it's significant because of this or that, but it's really just knowing without even putting words to it that, you know, it's not the case, and it just drops away. I wouldn't say it's been overnight, but, you know, over time, that knowledge has just allowed me to go deeper with it, so that it, you know, it's something I can embrace and be more fully present with, you know, as part of who I am, but not giving it significance either, you know, because now is so much more important. So that's really, you know, what I felt about just reading it and what I saw in it.
I love that, living in the knowledge. Yeah. That makes such a difference, doesn't it?
Mm.
Living in the knowledge that that's how it works. Yeah, the present, Sid also says something like the past is a memory. It no longer exists. It only exists in the form of a memory, which is more thought. It's over. It's literally over. Yeah, Karen.
You got me who's worrying about what's coming next. So what Greg said is like really resonates with me big time, because that's what I've been focusing on so much. It's like worrying about this, worrying about that. It's like, no, I'm right here, right now. It's, you know, so thank you, Greg.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. See how we help each other? Yeah. In fact, if anybody is in a bookstore post-COVID and you run into this book, I was so mad at myself that I didn't buy it. Like, this is years later that this image sticks with me. At the time I was thinking, oh, it's a kid's book. I didn't have kids in my life at the time, before even my nieces were born. So what am I going to buy this book for? It had the greatest illustration. It was an illustration of a bunch of like almost cartoonish looking animals. And they were all standing around on top of their hill, and they were looking across to another hill, and it looked so green. And they looked down at their feet and they saw brown. So they all decide in a line, they made a line to get to that other hill where it was greener. And so the book goes, through, they're on this journey, and each one has the tail of the one in front of them in the mouth. So they're forming this line, and they finally get to the other hill, and they look down, and it's brown. And they look over at the hill they came from and it looks green. I thought, oh, what a great illustration. I got to find it. But that's what this reminds me of, that we're all, like, what would the word be, kind of segueing, or we're bouncing off of each other's insights, which create other insights. What Karen just said to Greg is exactly what I saw in the promise of what we can do with Mystery School, sharing what we've found, what we see. So that's really cool. Glad you said that, Karen. Anybody else have something you want to talk about? Greg?
I mean, I guess this is from like kind of way earlier when we were talking about like nature and like people getting like tranquility from it. Cause I remember like I grew up like camping a lot, and that cause with the scouts, and I remember like whenever we'd go like for a weekend, if we went camping, like whatever worries I had with like school or family or whatever else, kind of like I kind of liked it because it would just like evaporate for that like 24 to 48 hours that the camping trip was going on. So when I think it was Julia like mentioned like or I don't know who mentioned nature and tranquility, like that, I kind of remembered back to that, how much I would like camping.
Yeah, I love being out in nature too. It's just something so, I don't know, I feel in awe, that feeling of being in awe of something so much bigger than me. And yet I'm part of it. It's a cool feeling. Alan?
Something else. So the reason I'm thinking about nature is because I read this from Missing Link. It's all life is divine energy, whether in form or formless. When this energy takes form, we call it nature. And I think, one of the times when I become close to understanding the non-duality of life and thoughtlessness, without thought, no thought, is because there's something about the intelligence of mind expressing itself in nature that is really powerful, I think. And so when I'm in nature and when I allow myself to not think, to not remember, but to just be, I think that might be one of the places where I feel the most peace and the closest to no thought and non-duality.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. I love that passage. There was something in Second Chance. I meant to ask Bill Pettit when we were in the mind, brain, body behavior connection, his online course, the beginning of COVID. I think you might have been in that one too, Ellen. But anyway, there was this couple of sentences in Second Chance where somebody is talking about, I guess it was the Sid character, Jonathan, talking about a tree, that there's two separate trees. This is what I read, and it still doesn't make sense to me, that there's two separate trees. There's the inside of the tree and the outside of the tree. What do you think, Alan and Richard? Do you remember that in Second Chance? Like, the only thing I could make of it is, well, if I'm a little creature and I'm inside the tree, that's my experience. But if I'm outside of the tree, I'm this creature observing the tree on the outside. But to me, that's separate realities. That's not non-duality. What do you think, Richard?
There's a passage that was actually, Mama Lila was talking to Richard, explaining there was a palm tree, it had a growth on it. And I actually used that. It was a very relevant point to make for somebody that was suffering with cancer, because like cancer on the human body is like the growth on the palm tree. And Mama Lila was explaining that while they are natural in their own state, they are really not natural to one another. So that's where kind of you get into physical illness. Now, this is a little bit off the course from what you were talking about, Lori, but Linda Quiring also asked that question because her early involvement was said when, especially when Roger and company showed up, was Sid was explaining to Roger the nature of that duality, which is really what you're talking about, is that dual nature. I think fundamentally for all of the principles, and without putting one ahead of the other, is that awareness is a big part of what we experience in life. If you're not aware, you won't see anything. You won't see mind, you won't see consciousness, you won't see thought. It's that initial awakening, and this is what happened for me, is that I wasn't aware that I was searching, but I was. But once I woke up, became aware, my conscious level went up, boom. All sorts of things started popping for me from the point of view of simply just being aware. And then sort of the next, if you want to call it the next stage in consciousness, is understanding it. But if you're not awake or aware, you won't get to that point of understanding it.
What do you mean, Richard, that you realized, you woke up to the fact that you were searching? Searching for what?
I didn't know. I didn't even know I was searching. I was what I felt to be happy in terms of my life. But there was different, so again, separate realities. One side, one part of me was unaware that I was searching. The inner part of me was aware and realized, like when I woke up, well, okay, stop searching. You know, what's the point? I mean, I had an experience years before where I was aware, if you want to call it, of the nature of the universe, and it just kept expanding. Like I was a speck on planet Earth, which was a speck in the solar system, which was a speck in the galaxy, which a speck in the universe, and it kept going. But that was just a thought I had. But it gave me an appreciation for the infinite nature of the universe. And then I went, cool. Stuck my thumb out and got a ride. So I sort of popped in and out of separate realities by just becoming aware of the thought I had with no vested interest in whether it went right, left, or center. It was just an observation. So again, it was awareness, so consciousness.
What do you mean, like searching for meaning in life, or searching for
Searching.
happiness?
Searching.
Not for anything.
Not being present.
Oh, out there searching. Oh,
Just
as
simply-
opposed to being present. Oh,
It's like,
interesting.
I thought I was okay. I thought I was okay. I didn't realize that I was actually searching.
Oh, like looking for the next best job or his future out there, as opposed to just letting life
It wasn't really focused on
move
the
you.
object. It was just the act of searching.
Huh. Interesting.
Ooh.
Alan.
Let me know if I take up too much time here, but Richard, thank you for that, because what I didn't realize I was searching for was home. I was searching for home. And when I first encountered Sid, that I felt like I had come home. And when I'm in nature, I feel like I'm home. So for me, I wouldn't say I wasn't searching for home, but that's what I wanted. I wanted home. And that's why this has been so powerful for me, because it feels like home. My soul is at rest. I am home.
Well, that wasn't enough time. What do you mean? Tell me if I take up too much time. I want to hear more. Yeah, isn't that funny? Yeah, we think, that was great. Yeah, that I could feel that. That's what everybody wants, right? Is that feeling of being at home, being taken care of is what that says to me. There's just this sense of, oh, I'm okay. And whatever is happening is okay because I'm not making it happen, if that makes sense. I'm not in charge here. I'm not. It's not up to me, thank heavens. And that's such a relief. Knowing that, I can't change somebody else's mind. It's their reality. It could be light years from mine, but it's not my business what their reality is. Yeah, I know you know what I mean, Karen. Yeah, we've had those discussions. Like another person's reality could be like, oh my God, they must be from Mars. Because you can't relate at all, right? Has anybody on this call not had that experience where you're talking to somebody and they're like, you don't like, where is this person from? I'm not getting it. And then you realize, wow, it's okay. I don't have to get their world. And anybody can change, man. Doing that webinar with Shanann, whew, anybody can change. Look at how caught up he was in a negative lifestyle. And boom, wake up. That's possible for anybody.
What's interesting, Lori, it doesn't have to be a negative experience. You can just be asleep. Really simple. Like you can have a good life and be asleep, and it'd be no different than Shanann being engaged in a gang. It's just that you're not awake. You're not experiencing the true nature of who we are as a spiritual being. The outer the outer trappings, if you want to call it, like his gang was his outer trapping. Inside, he was just a lost soul. That soul had lost his way. And Alan, your point about coming home, that was something that resonated hugely with me when Sid would talk about coming home or going home, because he talked about going. And interesting that Dickon and Natasha talk about coming home and Sid talked about going home. So it's interesting, one in my mind is like from the outside coming in, which is often the outside world is perceived as real, when in fact it's the inner world that is the real experience. The outer world is just a manifestation of what's going on inside.
Yeah. Going home, like going to whence we all came. Right? Yeah. That is so cool. And we forget, throughout our day, you feel at peace and at ease in your home, And then you get all caught up in fearful thoughts and worrisome thoughts and woulda, shoulda, coulda thoughts of the past. And then, you realize that you're caught up in your mind, in your thinking. And then, you're back home. That's my experience. I don't know. Does that make sense? Is that how you guys?
I was just going to say that I went for a walk just recently because I was feeling really stirred up in my own mind. And I had this experience of walking around the woods, and I must have went round the woods about 3 times because I just felt I was quite stressed that day. And I suddenly just had this sort of experience where I could, then obviously the nature's around me and I could feel the trees, I could hear them, 1 minute they were blowing, it was like there was a storm breaking out, and the next minute they were really calm and everything just sounded so peaceful. And it just struck me that, the nature was sort of resembling my mind, that it would be really busy and loud, and then all of a sudden it's just really calm and tranquil. And it was just a moment in nature, just as Alan was saying, that felt quite healing, and just sort of, yeah, just that you're sort of one with it, I guess.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's so great. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Oh, you gotta. Bye, Alan. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah. See you next week. It's so great getting together on Monday. I feel like, have something to look forward to on Monday. Well, that's how I get feeling. Yeah. So see you next Monday. Go get them. Grant writer. Alan writes grants. Yeah. Hard work. So what else? We got a few more minutes. Yeah. What else should we say?
One of the things I noticed too about coming home is that thing about love. When there's more peace, I notice within myself I have more love and more acceptance, and by having that, how much more acceptance and love there is for others and everything, whatever's happening outside. That for me is especially, with people I've met who I had an experience the other day of somebody who I've always felt like we have very different separate realities. And by accepting how different we were without judging that, we actually came full circle and we had the most amazing conversation the other day. And it was just perfect and just in the moment was just beautiful. And we both got a lot from it, and there was something for both of us that shifted within that, like a celebration of the differences, but also the love and the acceptance that we had for each other without even talking about it. And, so it's like when there's more love in my heart for myself, it expands out to other people as well. I think you're muted, Laurie.
Yeah, I know. I was kept clicking unmute and it wasn't doing it. I just want to say, wow, that was so right on. That's unconditional love, what you just described. And it's not that difficult. People think it's so difficult to have unconditional love for anybody that's not your child. Because people put conditions on adults like, well, he should know better. Or what's wrong with her that she doesn't know that? You see the innocence in a child It's easy to have unconditional love for a child or a pet because you think that they don't know better. But the same is true for adults. They don't know better or different. They only know what they know. And if we say out of judgment about that, whew, what a relief for us as the listener. And it feels so much better to just feel compassion and love and understanding than
I
it
did
does.
have judgments, and I think she had them on me. But I think that, we were both somehow had an understanding that although we had those, it didn't mean anything either. In a way, I had those judgments come up, and it wasn't a comfortable feeling, but by accepting the discomfort and in a way feeling and seeing it for what it was, and probably she doing something similar, we both moved through those things to a totally spontaneous conversation that just was lovely. So yeah, it wasn't that I didn't have those feelings, I did, but I didn't take them seriously.
Yeah. 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 Like you can observe without taking it seriously. Yeah.
There's always, it always feels like there's something to learn in it. That's what I see more, is that there's always an opportunity to learn or see deeper, because it's never the truth when we have that discomfort, is it? But there's nothing wrong in having it, but it's not taking it seriously, I think, for me, is the understanding I have from it.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah, that's really cool. Nice. So, should we keep going for next week? And, I like this format, bringing your insights, bring a passage that has you stumped. And yeah, we all contribute. Nice. Well, so I'm just going to say, have a great week, everybody.